Hello again, my fishies. I finished another project a while back, and I just finished the video part of this project. Don't judge me, I'm trying. This doll is meant to be a gift for a friend of mine on Instagram named Avalon Girls, and she has since named this wonderful girl Keira. Keira? Let me check that.
Kiara.
I'm posting this video for the same reason I post all my other videos. As a testament to the just do it mentality I have, and to remind you guys that you can say, modding is so scary, I can't do that. If you don't even try, you never will. Keira was my first step into some serious modding. I know that I did make Weber, and he was an additive mod project. I didn't really cut anything away, I just slapped stuff together and glued them in place. So working on this doll, where I basically Frankensteined a doll together, let's just say it was the first step into modding madness. So let me explain what I did and how I made this doll a reality. So diving straight into the body mods, you'll want to mark where you're going to cut, get your cutting tool. For me, I'm using a Dremel with a cut-off wheel bit, and slicing and dicing until I'm happy with what I have. If you're new to Dremeling, please exercise caution. You'll want to have a pair of safety glasses. Dremels can sling stuff off quite easily into your face, as well as heat up the plastic considerably, so touch stuff cautiously. Don't you dare throw away those feet, you never know when you'll need them for another modding project. Put them in a box, just don't forget where you put that box for when you need it later. You'll want to get your hand drill. Yes, I know I'm using a power tool in this video. That was done in 2019. I have accidentally drilled holes in stuff since then. Get your hand drill. Drill holes into the leg and then connect them with either wire or a toothpick and some epoxy glue. Once you have the legs how you want them, set them aside to cure properly. Because everybody in the hobby knows that it's a lot of hurry up and wait, I did decide to take this time while the epoxy was curing to sculpt out some feet. I went to my local library and actually had them printed off because I didn't own a 3D printer at the time. If you guys want to be able to use a 3D printer without actually buying a 3D printer, there are some online directories listing people that do take commission to 3D print for you, as well as some online people that I have used recently to 3D print stuff for me. Check out the description box if you want to find some links so you can commission some printers. I'd like to go ahead and say that Kiara is supposed to be a fawn. If you've noticed what I've done wrong, we'll tell the rest of them later. So, post-processing out of the way, now that the prints are ready to be assembled to the doll, I used a lighter and a needle, but it's faster to use a hand drill to drill the holes into your leg and your joint piece. I then connected them using wire and secured them in place using some expanding superglue. You can already see that I've done the upper area in Milliput. I now do the lower area in the epoxy putty, which just like Milliput is a 2-part epoxy, equal parts A and B mixed together. Then you'll work it in, sculpt it on your doll, and give it time to cure. I did also make a point of shoving some extra epoxy into the leg to give the joint extra support along with the wires and the expanding foam. I may be a little paranoid. Either way, once the epoxy is cured, you'll want to hit it with sandpaper and work in some serious elbow grease. And when you're standing, don't forget to wear your desk mask. Nobody wants epoxy floating around in their lungs. Partially for science, partially because I wanted to, and then also because, well, I Frankensteined this doll together and she has inconsistent colors. I needed to dye the doll. I used some iDye poly, which I would not recommend, and as my secondary project, which you guys will see at some point, actually stained some of my stock dolls. I used Rit Dimer, which seems to be a little bit more color fast when used on plastics. While I did focus my dyeing in the leg area, I did try to dip a gradient into the doll later on. I dyed the feet and hands separately. As you can imagine, so many different colors on the body meant that it did not dye evenly, so I followed up with the airbrush to smooth out all the color differences. You might be asking what's the point of dyeing it if you're going to paint over it anyway? It's for the sake of the joints. Paint always peels off the joints, so if you dye it, you'll have it closer to the color of the skin tone anyway. And so when the paint does inevitably peel off the joints, I'll have purple-ish joints as opposed to Frankie's original skin tone. That explanation out of the way, don't forget to seal your paint job on the body, okay? I use Liquitex matte varnish. And a gold star to anybody who actually noticed the foot issue beforehand. As you can see here, they're magically different feet because a faun does not have horse hooves, they have goat hooves. All the real body modifications finally done, prepped, and painted, it's time to actually do all the customization to it and bring Kiara to life. I grabbed my handy dandy fast grab tacky glue and some leftover synthetic hair from I don't even know which doll, and I proceed to glue it onto the feet. I continue gluing the hair up the leg, stopping before the first joint. Once I have all the hair glued down where I want it, I do take some scissors and trim it up. My friend Avalon Girls did give me a couple of prompts when I offered to make her a doll, and this is why I eventually decided on a faun, with a very foresty nature themed. So every accessory I added, it was important to keep it very foresty, very natural, stuff that could be found either by harvesting it from an animal or picking it from some trees and flowers and bushes and stuff. I liberated some accessories from a Ghoul's Getaway Spectra, clipped off the chains and painted the flowers, and from there, with a little bit of work, it was easy to turn it into a headdress. The first thing I did was trace a pattern of the flowers so I knew how big to cut a piece of fabric. Using the pattern piece I made, I cut it out of a suitable material that matched the theme I was already going for. I then used some heavy-duty thread and some beads to add that little something extra to the headdress. I then glued that all in place with a glue I trusted, and before the glue could dry, I ran some pins through the headdress so that it could attach to the head. I would recommend using pins either that are the proper color beforehand or painting them the proper color to blend in with the flower. Don't forget the ever important final step of sealing your paint. Set it aside to dry somewhere safe and move on to the next accessory. I've included a diagram of what I've done because the brown didn't really show up on the camera. But a couple of things to note about the next accessory is this only works with material that does not ravel, like pleathers, vinyls, or even suedes. It's just important that it does not immediately ravel when you start cutting it or handling the material. You want to measure your doll's neck and add a little extra for overlap, and then you want to measure the neck to however long you want this necklace to be, and then cut out a rectangle using those measurements. You'll want to get a very small bead, something along the lines of seed beads or small pearls. Stitch it to one side at the top corner, and then very carefully with either a scissor or like an owl. Anyway, you'll either want to cut a hole or poke a hole into the other corner of the material enough that the seed bead can get through, but not so big that the seed bead won't be held in place. Then with your scissors, you'll want to cut little slits across the whole thing. Doesn't look like much, but trust me, when you put it on the doll, it will be amazing. And in my case, the material was a little bit too plain, so it needed a little bit of paint help. To keep the entire outfit consistent, I did continue with the painted leather on the clothing, as well as brought it into the legs, which helped also cover the poor blend of the bright purple against the dark purple of her body. While I'm painting my hand-sculpted polymer clay horns, I'm going to go into craft PSA time! You can't finish what you never start. I know that sounds silly, but I've seen a lot of people say over and over again they want to be able to mod, but they don't because of XYZ. You don't have to start with Apoxie just because somebody else did. The doll I made was with Apoxie, polymer clay, Milliput, 3D printing, half-baked ideas, and scrap material. I was literally committing myself to making this faun for Avalon so I could jump right into modding and stop making excuses. I needed to figure out what modding medium I liked the most. Buy whatever beginning medium you need, whatever means of modding calls to you. Commit and do and learn in advance. I've learned I like both Milliput and Apoxie, but honestly, Milliput's ease of measuring and getting the mix right is much preferable. I haven't been able to make Apoxie the same shade of gray ever, so obviously I'm not mixing it correctly. Oops. So like I said, start somewhere, pick something that you can actually confidently go into, or hesitantly go into, and not panic. And once you have, hit up that comment section and tell me about it, or find me on the Fire Tuna Club Instagram and share it with me. Hey look, it's pictures of Kiara, and she's finished. I know what you're thinking. Where was the footage of the face-up? Why didn't you tell us about the rest of the accessories? Well, fishies, the whole point of this video was for me to try to convince you to start your own modding project. If I can go into a project like this, blind, confused, and wandering aimlessly, and get to the end, you can too. Figure out something you're comfortable or half comfortable trying and just do it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave some comments if you have some thoughts about this video or would like to see something specific in the next video. You should totally hit the like button if I convinced you to make your own modding project, or if you just like fawns like Kiara. If you aren't already a subscriber, you totally should become one. Hit the subscribe button and don't forget to ring the bell so you get alerts about any new videos I make. If you want any sneak peeks, head over to the Fire Tuna Club Instagram page, and I'll see everyone else when I finish another project.